So the big question is this: how do ordinary people like us that weren't born into money create true financial freedom, take back control of our lives and live a life full of purpose, meaning and fulfillment? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply and share the strategies that the wealthy know and use that the rest of us weren't taught to create true financial freedom. My name is David Bell and welcome to Pocket Mastermind. Welcome to another episode of the Pocket Mastermind podcast. On today's episode, I'm talking to life coach, author and artist Myrick, who back in 2017 picked up a paintbrush, which turned out to be an experience that kick-started a voyage of self-discovery. And now Michelle helps people to unlock their inner strength, the courage and confidence through her Be the Lighthouse coaching program. And she's going to explain to us today how that works. So Michelle, welcome to the Pocket Mastermind podcast.
Oh, it's great to be here, David. Thank you for such a nice introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'm really interested to get into this experience and then how you now use that to help other people. But let's start a bit before that and let's get a bit of background. You obviously life coach, author, artist. I know you're including in the artist is singer-songwriter and stuff. So I'd be really interested to learn a bit more about that.
Sure. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go right back. I'm a teacher by trade. I graduated in 1987 with a teaching degree. It's a long time ago. I did teach for a little while, but I left teaching in my early 20s. I didn't feel like it fit me very well. So I moved into the area of business, actually, and I eventually got into fund development for different organizations, different charities in particular. And of course, moved up the ranks a little there and created a pretty good, reputation for myself as a businesswoman. But I reached a point at age 43 when I just came to terms with, like to the outside world, it looked like I had everything going on, right? I was single. I had no children. I had a really good profession, a really good job. I had a nice house, a car. I had a trip every week or every month, I should say, every year down to Cuba. Wishful thinking, I haven't been on a plane for a while, right? Everybody wants to get on a plane somewhere by now. So like I could give myself a vacation basically. So it looked like I had, the world by the tail, but inside I felt like something was missing. And I really had this deep desire for something more in my life. And really what that translated as, which I couldn't put words around at the time, was something that had more purpose and meaning, for me, for who I was, who I am as a person. So I set out on a very unusual journey that took me to 5 different continents, beginning with Saudi Arabia. I went back to teaching at age 43, began teaching English as a second language. And I eventually reconnected with my now husband, who I had originally met in 1992. Oh, wow. In St. John's in Newfoundland, where I'm from. We met in 92, but we reconnected in India on a beach in 2012. Oh, right. So there's a story there, but it just goes to show that really and truly, like where you're meant to be and what's supposed to happen for your life, it will take place in probably the most unusual circumstances, something that you could never, ever imagine. But that journey, of course, has led me to where I am now. I'm sitting in Norway talking to you today. My husband is Norwegian, which is why we moved back here after living a few years in India. And it was, as you mentioned, 3 years ago, I picked up a paintbrush, and that's kind of changed everything for me. I've always been a singer-songwriter. Well, I shouldn't say always, but since I was a young woman in my early 20s. And I really, really felt that music was my creative expression, and probably the only one, because I never really explored anything else, to be honest. But I had a curiosity about painting, and I started exploring. I started following my curiosity down that rabbit hole. And it really unlocked something inside of me, a chamber, I guess, of awareness that I had never felt or processed through before. And that was quite an interesting and intensive kind of feeling to have. So I started painting, and when I say started painting, I prolifically painted for that first year.
What was it that made you pick up the paintbrush in the first place?
Just curious. I was just curious, and I started watching YouTube videos on like how to, mix colors and use different textures. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much you can do here, that I had never even known about before. And I just got carried away in that, but it was also the way it made me feel. I felt a different freedom creating that way than what I had before. But the real thing kind of came about for me when my husband suggested that I paint my songs. That's when everything took a different kind of shift. Because, I've written a lot of songs and they've been about my life. And they did help me to process a lot of things that happened in my lifetime. But painting pictures like 10, 20, 30 years later, based on that experience, was really a different process for me. Because, the girl who wrote the song at 21 and the woman who created the painting at 52 or 53, completely different, right? Completely different, bring completely different perspectives to the table. So as a creator, that paradigm, I guess, if you want, or juxtaposition between those two kinds of creations and how I felt when I created the song and how I felt when I created the painting, really made an interesting, not just journey for me, but a story to tell. So I knew I had something big. And after painting that first song, I knew I had to keep going because I felt resolution. I felt a different kind of a resolution for, what that first song that I painted was about. It was about the loss of my father, my brother, and my uncle, about that horrific experience we all went through back in 1987. And it just helped me to process things in a completely different way. And I think it made me see my life differently. It made me see how my thoughts were really affecting my feelings, affecting my choices of behavior, and creating the results of my life. And when I put that in front of people in a live performance exhibition, that's what people related to. They related to that human journey, that span of time, the lessons that I had learned from that process and how I put that in front of people. And they're those audiences that encouraged me to write my book. So, there's been a lot happen in 3 years. I've been a busy girl, right?
Who would have thought that when you picked up the paintbrush, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely not. And
I can see the amazing thing, because with songs, right, generally what happens is artist writes a song, records a song, it goes out into the ether, and we all put our own meaning onto it.
Yeah.
Whereas in this scenario, people get to see what your meaning is. And I think that's where the extra connection probably comes from, right? Because you don't normally get that.
Even in that, like every single show that I did, there was people came up to me and said, "My God, Michelle, you just put words around what I was feeling and didn't know how to express in telling the story." Like, regardless of the song, regardless of the painting, they were just vehicles for the message, They were the vehicles that helped me uncover my message, to help me uncover my life, my meaning, my purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've translated now as a life coach, you know, taking in all of that awareness that creativity has given me, plus with my background as a teacher of how to create curriculum, you know, and showing people how to use that vehicle of creativity to really reconnect with who they are and what they want for their lives. You know, that's kind of, it's all led me to here. And it's wow, I mean, quite a journey. Quite a journey.
Yeah. What was your initial experience like from the physical act of the painting from the memory? Because it must be quite, you know, I grew up drawing and painting, kind of lost it since I left school, but I was always very good at drawing something I could see. I don't know how great I'd be from my imagination. It probably looked like be all over the place. So how do you, what's that experience been like? Is it free flow like that, or?
It was really strange because of course, I told you I painted so prolifically that first year. I was trying everything. I was doing abstract stuff. I was doing landscape stuff. I was doing seascapes, figurative things. You know, I was just like, whatever wanted to come out of me, I let it. I basically let it come out. So in this show that I put together, I call the song series, by the way. And I took 11 of my songs and did it, painted them. But each painting was its own process. You know, some of them are a little more figurative. Some of them are very abstract. But what I let happen for me, like how I wanted to do this as a creator, was to let the emotion take its form on the canvas, like, you know, so that it held meaning for me, right? And that was what was most important. I mean, some pieces I struggled with because they were deep emotional experiences of my life, and I really wanted to focus on the lesson. You know, I didn't want to focus on, well, this happened and that happened and made me feel, you know, what was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I wanted to focus on now, like what can I bring to this now? What is the transformation in me right now that I can put onto the canvas? So yeah, that was quite a journey. I keep saying that word, holy jumpins. But, you know, the process itself was, it was deep. It was deep.
How have you then taken that experience that you had and then apply that to other people? I'm really interested to understand what the starting point even looks like. Because, you know, where do you start? There's a million memories and thoughts. And where do you kick off from there?
Well, it's a really hard question to answer in a few minutes, but I'll try my best. It's about getting in touch with your inner self, right? It's about trying to have increased awareness about what is going on inside of you. Because, okay, we have events that happen in our lives, fact, all right? So my father and brother were drowned, fact. But what I did with that and how I interpreted that and the thoughts that I wrapped around that, the meaning that I applied to that event, even though my sister went through exactly the same thing, and my mom, of course, from you know, wife and mother perspective, we interpreted it differently, right? So it's about going in there and seeing your own thought process, your own interpretations, and to do that, you have to tap into an inner part of yourself and let that be free to come out. So I work with people around mind management techniques, you know, about how to understand your own thinking and your own thought process. Because, you know, we have a lower mind that's at play all the time. Plus, we also have a higher mind. And they're sometimes like kind of in a little bit of contradiction with each other, in the sense that the lower mind, our ego, which gets a really bad rap, although it's just really trying to protect us, you know, it's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us alive. So it's trying to keep us home on the couch, It's trying to keep us logical, order every single day, knowing what's coming next, like that kind of progression in life. It's not happy when we try to stretch and expand. But the higher mind is the absolute opposite. That's where all the potentiality, all the innovative ideas, all the creativity, all the possibility exists for us, for our lives. But the lower mind looks at that and sees chaos. Mm-hmm. It just sees chaos and says, don't go there, don't go there. So when you can understand the operation, the inner operation of how your mind is working, that's when you can get in and really take control. Manage your thinking, right, around your life, the choices that you're making, to understand that maybe, when you're feeling insecure or uncertain, it's just a thought. It's actually just a thought. It's not a fact, right? So I take people through a lot of that process first so they can understand what's going on internally. Because, David, I can't get into your brain and see what's going on. Only you can do that, right? Mm-hmm. Only you can, but I can give you the tools to be able to interpret it and then to, transform that into your own life purpose, what you want. What do you want? And are those thoughts serving that or preventing you from having it? Right? And I take people through a process, a creative 5-step process, actually, where they do create a piece of art, but the purpose is not the piece of art. Everyone gets the same kind of an instruction, but creates something different. I've had people do wood art pieces. I've had people do collages. I've had people do coloring like when they were children. I've had people do paintings, of course, and mosaics and wire sculptures. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the end result is, but that process that I lead people through is what's important, because I take them in where they feel, where they understand and make decisions from that place. So it's the beginning of trusting that inner channel, because that's what it is between the lower and the higher mind. That inner channel is your creative intuition, right? That's what leads between the two. And when people go through this process, they can see, they can access their own potentiality. And they can actually see how much they're capable of. They can actually see how they've been holding themselves back. It's mind-blowing to see someone's light come on with all of this stuff. And I mean, it gives me such joy that I'm never going to stop doing this. I'm never, ever going to stop helping people turn their light on, because, it's so great to see it. But for that person that's feeling it, it's life-changing. Just as it was life-changing for me to see it. So that's what I'm translating. That's what I'm interpreting. That's what I'm using the vehicle of creativity, for people to be able to reach that same sort of transformation.
And so what do the steps kind of look like? What's the journey from the beginning to the end?
Well, I do work with visualization, with journaling, because of course I'm a writer too, and I find that writing is one of the most free-flowing activities we can do, because we don't filter. We don't filter. If you can get out of your head and just free flow write, you're not filtering your thoughts because you're not sharing them with anyone. If you're speaking, like I'm speaking with you now, of course, I'm filtering my thoughts, is he going to understand what I'm saying? Is he, how's he going to relate to it? Like all of that's going on. I mean, aren't we amazing human beings?
I know.
Aren't we incredible machines?
We take it so much for granted, the amount of stuff that's going on all of the time.
Right?
We don't appreciate how much we're doing continuously.
Yeah. So it is like a progression towards creating that piece, but it comes really from internal, because I do take them on an exploration kind of process about what is in there that needs to come out right now. Because I mean, you know, I've done that process myself 100 times, more maybe. And every single time something different comes out, because every single minute I'm somebody different.
This is true, yeah.
Every single minute, right? You know, you're growing in awareness, you're growing in insight. You know, COVID has changed all of us, right? We look at things differently in the world. So we're always changing, we're always expanding, we're always evolving. And at any given moment, there's something that your soul wants to say. Your soul always has a message for you, right? And creativity is the most direct route to it, I think. Honestly, that's for me.
I agree. I think that's what we're designed to do, right? And I think, look around us, everything is some form of creativity. And I had this conversation with somebody yesterday, is that, you know, even how we're talking to each other today via the technology was a creative process.
These little Apple things that
little thing. Look, somebody had to have that idea and create it in the first place, right? Everything, creativity and creation, and that's, we are the most fortunate of all of the creatures because we get to do that stuff. If you're a hedgehog, you don't get to make much, do you? So it's we've got this massive opportunity, and I think we definitely don't take enough advantage of that opportunity.
We have a superpower that we don't even use. It's like these phones. It's like getting the phone and only using it as a phone.
Yeah. Or as a paperweight.
or you know what? Some people leaving it even in the box, never taking it out of the box.
Yeah.
Never taking it for a spin, you know? Like we have so much we're capable of, and it's that superpower that we have that I want to turn on in people. I want them to see their own strength, see their own power, see what they're capable of. Go for those dreams, you know? I mean, you mentioned my Be the Lighthouse program. It wasn't initially one of the objectives of the program, but oddly enough, a lot of people that go through there, at least about 30 to 40%, start their own businesses because they untap what it is they want. They go in, they discover, they feel it, and they know it's real. They know it's right for them. That's certainty. You know, that I want to lead people back to their own certainty, right? We had it as children. This is what I always say. We had it as children. You know, you look at any 3-year-old, that child is only going to do what makes them happy. That's it. They're not going to want to do anything that they don't like, right? You know, they're completely 100% guided by their intuition of what they like and what they don't like. We lose that as we get older.
We get convinced that we should just put up with it, and this is the way life is. It's just, life isn't fair, and but it's all this nonsense, these mantras that we get given, so that we accept all of this stuff. And I think what you're doing is you have to break the pattern that we find ourselves in, right? This conversation also comes up a lot of the time. It's the get up, go to work, wait for Friday, then spend the weekend dreading Monday, loop, loop, loop. And I think going through this process is a stick in the spokes of the wheel to stop that pattern. And then suddenly, that's probably why loads of people decide, actually, I'm going to start my own business, because it shines a light on that lack of fulfillment that they've got just being on the hamster wheel.
And when that light comes on, you know, and people ask me why I call it Be the Lighthouse. And because, like, you know, people have this fascination with lighthouses, fine and dandy. I understand. I grew up at a lighthouse, you know, so I understand the importance. I understand what kind of a symbol it is for strength and guidance. But without that light, it's just an empty tower. It's just a structure. And when you turn the light on, that's where the magic is. And that's where the magic is in all of us. You know, it just goes back to these mind management principles that I mentioned too. You know, when you talk about what we're capable of and what we're not capable of, or what we tell ourselves that we're not capable of, it really is just a thought. It's just a thought. And here's one thing that people fear the most, and that's rejection. right? But when you understand that as primitive human beings, okay, we have right still, we still have the DNA of our primitive beings and from the beginning. And in order to survive as a primitive human, you had to be part of a tribe, or the tigers would eat you, right? Or the, whatever animals were in your habitat would destroy you, right? So we have this built-in part of our DNA that says belong, right? That really is driving us to belong. Now, we're not being chased down by tigers today. So we have a fear of rejection as if it's going to kill us.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that's instinctive because we are of the human species. And when you get that, when you understand that, then okay, that's just, it's not going to kill me. Of course you still want to belong, but what it is that deep-rooted fear of judgment, fear of rejection that stops us so much from being who we are, right? It makes us want to be like everybody else. But guess what? You're never going to be like everybody else, right? It's time to embrace who you are, and live fully, wholly, authentically from there, because it's joyful. It's just absolutely joyful, and it's with ease. I just want to give this to everybody on the planet. Honestly, everyone should be able to feel this kind of comfort in their own skin, right?
I agree, and it's the challenge today, isn't it? Is that you've got so much in your face of what everyone else is doing and what their lives. The highlight. I think this conversation also comes up a lot. Is you're comparing your behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reels.
Exactly.
And you need to really focus in on as you've already said, what do you want? And I think most of us, and I've been there, right, you don't really know what you want because there's too much other, you
don't ask
thing on a daily, but yeah, exactly, you don't do that, take that time to really stop and think about what is it that I actually want. Is it this stuff? And I think if you actually take the time, you realize what you think you want probably isn't what you really want. And you've got to go through some exercises to try and understand exactly what it is you're after. Because you might be heading off in a completely different direction, or you might not even be a million miles away from where you want to go, but you're just pointing slightly 1 degree off, right? Exactly. And so it's just, anybody can spend that time just trying to work out. That's the starting point from everything, as far as I'm concerned. Do you change your life? And I've been there, so it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, and I bet you'd agree with me too that the answers, or the answer to that most important question, it actually lies in your past experiences.
Yeah,
it really lies in your past experiences and what they have meant for your life. How they have impacted your life. That's where your passion is. That's where your interests are. Whatever has been guiding you, it's always been guiding you, right? And your purpose lies in there. What you want is in there, but we don't look at it. We're always looking outside.
Yeah.
Right. We're like, I need the next thing. I need the next. But it's you actually really need to go inside to find out what that is. And it takes a while for some of us to understand how to do that. My way has been through creativity. Someone else's way might be through something else, but it's definitely introspective. Something has to bring you inside for you to understand what it is you want, and actually, what do you like? We don't take the time to inquire, what do we like? Do you like gardening? Is that something that you're really passionate about? Why is it? Why are you really passionate about gardening? Is it just because you like bringing life to things? Or is it because you have a fascination with the unusual plant life? What is it? Or do you really love bees? Or like what? You can go in any direction, right? But we don't inquire. We don't do that self-inquiry bit. We get trapped in the map, what I call the map. We get trapped there. Either somebody gave it to us, our parents, our caregivers, or we gave it to ourselves at a young age, that in order to be happy, you have to, get a good education, get a good job, get a good house or a partner, then get the house, then get the kids, whatever, all of these different landmarks on the map. Well, I ticked all of those off and I was still not happy inside. To the outside world, people would look at me and say, what are you complaining about? But it's not about that. And in fact, for the longest time, I'll be honest, I felt guilty. Like, why do I want something more than this? I should be content with what I got, But I knew there was an emptiness inside of me that was longing to be filled, right? So I knew I didn't want that to die inside of me. I did not want that longing to die without finding life.
No, and I guess, part of this, once you've done that retrospective looking, the artwork and going backwards, it allows you then to start to think and move forwards, right? Because you start to clear that blockage, and your creativity starts to then focus more on the forward looking process of what do you want. And there's a lot of power in, things like vision boards and all of those kind of things, but painting it and writing it.
Well, I mean, also you have to be practical, right? Like this is, like in my program, in Be the Lighthouse, we do all that introspective stuff. But listen, I'm a teacher, so I have my participants have homework every single week. They have to actually do stuff, right? Because you learn most by doing. But then all this stuff, like you said, we uncover. If you don't do anything with it, you're still sat home on the couch with your lower mind, right? trying to stay protected and alive. So what I do, I take them through another process of how to move forward. So we branch out to 10 years from now, and we work it backwards. So like, okay, say you go through my program, Be the Lighthouse, and you discover, I want to be, I don't know, making model cars or something. I don't know, whatever, right? So, and you make this big goal that in 10 years time, I'm going to have created this, whatever it is you want for your life. So that's so far away from you. Your mind doesn't even see it as real. But what I take people through is a process of coming back. Okay, if you want to be there in 10 years, where do you need to be in 5? Where do you need to be in 3? Where do you need to be in 1? Where do you need to be in 6 months? Where do you need to be in a week? Where do you need to be today? And the lights that come on there, when a person can see, okay, what I'm doing today is actually going to make or break that 10-year goal. Right? That is powerful business, my friend. That's powerful stuff, right? And it shows your brain that, okay, maybe the higher mind got something going on here. Maybe I can listen a little tiny bit. Maybe I'll open that channel a little bit more, right? Just making a little more sense. So then the lower brain is a little bit more happy. So it's not as anxious to stop you. It's not as anxious to kick in all of those doubts and fears, right? And the higher brain is allowed to dream and create and create and create. It's like, it's freaking magic. It's just like...
And the powerful thing is, once you've got that going, is actually getting it down on in any way, in any form whatsoever. Because I think we all do it, right? We might lay in bed, or you'd be doing something else, and you come up with these ideas, and you never write them down, and they disappear off into the thin air. I've done it so many times, and I think, shit, if I can even remember what that thing was from 2 years ago, last week, Yeah. So... And people like Branson carry a little mini notepad around, because write them down. I mean, these days you can put it into your phone, and even if it seems small and silly, it's good to get into the practice of keeping notes on ideas, because you never know where that one idea goes, and that idea goes, and it's probably something you've done quite a lot through songwriting in some way. Is like ideas come, because if you don't write down an idea for a song, that disappears too, doesn't it? Or a line.
I would be lost without it.
With no you write a lyric comes to your head and it's gone, and then what would you do?
Exactly. Like it's all here in my phone. You know, it's really and truly, I'd be lost without it, because I'm an idea person. And when inspiration hits me these days, I pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
I truly pay attention, because it's led me here, and I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so when I get an instinct about something, when I get a feeling, and this is the key. This is the key to all of this. Your feelings are your light switches, right? It's honestly, it's your indication of what's going on internally, right? On both ends of the spectrum, it's your indication. You know, you get goosebumps about something, that's a feeling. And understanding that your feelings, that they are only just physical reactions, by the way, in the body. That's it. Like you get goosebumps when you're happy, or when something resonates with you, or you know, you feel your warmness in your heart when you're touched by something. So think about anxiety. You get sweaty hands. It's literally, and we're so afraid of that. We're so afraid of that until you have the mind management principle to understand that, okay, my thoughts creating these sweaty hands right now, just like my thoughts created that goosebump. You know, those goosebumps or whatever, right? It's about increasing your awareness about how your brain's working,
Well, one great example of that is the kind of anxiety and fear versus excitement are the same physiological expression within the body, but it's just our mental interpretation as to whether we feel scared or excited. And that's fascinating, because your body is sensing that there's something happened or something could happen, and it elicits the same adrenal response. And then one person we're shaking and fearful, and the other person can't wait to get going, and it's exactly the same thing. And it's so that kind of framing I think is really, really, really useful, really powerful to help us overcome those anxieties.
We're always assigning meaning. We assign meaning to everything. We're mean-making machines, right? You know, and we're always assigning meaning. So for one person, it's exciting. For another person, it's fearful, right? So that is a thought. It's a choice. It's not just, because I get this all the time too. Oh, it's just the way I am. You know, especially people who worry. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm just a worrier. I'm always a worrier. I grew up a worrier. My mum's a worrier. Yeah.
It's in my genes. My mom was a worrier. I'm a worrier. My grandmother was a worrier, you know. No. Something. Oh, I think my neighbor has something going out there. Is that interrupting the sound?
No, that's fine.
Okay. But yes, you know, it is a thought. It's a choice. It's a choice. Right, and it depends. Listen, when you get aware of how this all works, and you understand that, okay, I can be happy every day. I can actually choose to be happy. That's why happiness is an inside job. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with out here, right?
Yeah, when I came across all of this stuff and realized that it was just the most freeing thing, because every time it's still going to happen, right? Things will get you, and you catch yourself being affected by stuff. But the difference is you catch yourself being affected by stuff, and that gives you the opportunity to take a step back and remove yourself from it. Don't be the thing. You can be the observer rather than the emotion, rather than the thought. And that's what makes the big difference. When you're able to take the step back and see what's happening, you have much greater control and much greater freedom, and you can choose at that moment to think or feel another way. It doesn't mean it's easy every single time.
Of course, yeah.
But you do have the choice.
I'm gonna close that door. So sorry about that. I couldn't actually hear you so well. But yes, it's about choosing, about having that choice.
You get a complete choice. So it's hugely empowering, and you know, the point of doing this podcast was really that I went through that process, and there were things that spoke to me that kind of took me back to my truer self, and onto more of a journey that I wanted to go on, and took me away, kind of woke me up. I knew I wasn't in a great in a really fulfilled place and all of that stuff. And so now part of this is having these conversations so that hopefully one idea, one part of the conversation, something helps to spark that in somebody else too. Because I think the more Tony Robbins talks about repetition as the mother of skill, right? And I think hearing the same kind of conversation, the same kind of message from different angles, from different directions, is what makes a massive difference.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. And I think when you find that thing for your own life where you can serve, when you find a way to serve, right, that's what fires you up. Yeah. That's what fires you up, because, you know, I've had people come to me too about starting businesses. I've been an entrepreneur almost all my life as well. You know, as a musician, as a recording artist, as I used to manage bands, I used to run an Irish bar. You know, I had a catering company. I'm just one of these people that I'm always, you know, has something else on the go kind of thing, right? I'm a multitasker, no doubt. I'm a multitasker, but anyone that's listening and that are, you know, thinking, oh, I'm really considering doing this business because or this profession, going back to school for a profession because of the money, you're already on the wrong path. You're already on the wrong track, my friend, because if money is the only thing that's motivating you, you're not going to make it. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with money. I don't want anybody to get that misconception from this. There's nothing wrong with earning a good living. I have nothing against that whatsoever. But if it's sucking the soul out of you to do that, life is too damn short. Yeah. Life is, there are other ways. There are other ways, right?
And where's the once you get there? If that's all it was, once you get it, with anything, if it's only the thing that's the important part. Now, by what it is, when you get it, then what? There's empty, right? Does it? And so, what I realize that the whole point of life is the process. Look at a bee. The whole point of a bee, and I think if we model ourselves on the bee, and it sounds silly, but their whole point is the process, not the honey so much, right? And they have to work together and they have to serve to get the honey, because one bee by itself isn't going to achieve a great deal, right? So they all have to work, they have to serve, and the whole point is they have to do the work, otherwise there is no honey. Exactly. And we're trying to bypass, we're trying to short circuit the work bit. We're trying to short in our lives, which is how do we get to the thing without doing anything? And it just it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
And even if someone's lucky enough to fluke into something, it's not going to last.
No.
It just won't, because there's no fulfillment there. There's no process there. There's no purpose for that person, right? You know?
Well, they say 70% of lottery winners are bankrupt within 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So it shows it, right? Because it's not that the purpose is the development of who you become. And Jim Rohn always talked about, it's not about the objective of being a millionaire isn't the money, it's the who you become to become the millionaire, right?
Exactly.
That's the point of it, is how do you grow, how do you develop, how do you overcome the challenges of life, become a better person, how do you help other people to achieve the same kind of things, not just to get the cash, because you won't get fulfillment, and no one ever believes you until they get there and they go, oh yeah, there was nothing there. You know, Jim Carrey, there's loads of people that have talked about this stuff. They got to where they wanted to go, and then there was nothing there because it wasn't what it was all about.
Yeah, which, you know, this happens to the Jim Carreys of the world, but it also happens to the Joe Blow out on the street, you know, who's thinking that, okay, I'm going to become CEO and then I'm going to be happy. Well, you know, I was there. I was a CEO and I wasn't happy.
No, if anything, you've got more problems.
Exactly, you know, and I mean, it's unfortunately, because of that level of unhappiness and not knowing where to turn, what to do, you know, it can then lead you down a destructive path. Yeah. Right, to alcohol abuse, drug abuse, you know, any kind of substance abuse or activity that's damaging to your soul. You know, damaging to you as a person. And because you're still seeking that fulfillment, you're still seeking to find that, you're still following the map.
Hmm.
You know, you're not following your soul's compass, which is
Very true.
where all the answers are.
The answers are inside. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so before we let everyone know where they can find you, because it's been really interesting, I'm going to run you through a few quick questions, get your take on these. So the first one is, do you have any type of morning routine? And if you do, what does that look like?
Coffee in bed every single day.
Nice. I
Honestly,
like,
it's a practice that myself and my husband started in India.
really?
We lived in India for a few years before we came here into Norway, and we treasure it. It's our connection in the morning. You know, we wake up, slowly wake up together. We actually wake up early so we can do this, you know, and it's a nice ease into the day. Like you can bring yourself awake nicely. That's one thing, of course. But other than that, I don't like I talk to myself. I said, okay,
Mhm.
what do you need to do today, Michelle? You know, some days that means putting on my sneakers and going to the forest for a walk. Other days it is sitting down to write.
Mhm.
Some other days it's going to paint in the morning and write in the afternoon, or, you know, make social media posts or connect with my community. I do that a lot, you know. I have a fabulous, fabulous community. I'll invite your listeners to join if they're interested. It's a private Facebook group, and it's called Heart of the Matter. It's actually a group of like-minded individuals that are on this journey, on this path. You know, they're interested in finding out what that something more is for their lives. I provide free coaching in there, free training every single week. I've been doing it now for almost a year, and every Thursday. And all the replays, of course, are there for anyone that wants to. But it's people from all over the world, and we share our experiences because, you know, something, the power in sharing cannot be measured.
Mhm.
When someone else hears that they are not alone in the way that they feel, in their struggle, in their challenges, you know, and they're supported in their accomplishments, supported in their wins, I mean, that's golden. It's absolutely what we're here to do as a human species, I think, is to connect, to uplift, to elevate, to expand, you know, and that's happening in my little community called Heart of the Matter. And that's, we just talk about what matters. Does it, you know?
I'll see you
So
in there.
I invite people, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to come along to that.
Oh yeah.
Um, 3 books you'd recommend and why?
Oh my gosh. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Really great book. Um, Rising Strong by Brene Brown. Also a very, very good book. And let's see, I have so many nice ones. I'll go way, way back to maybe 20 years ago. One of my favorite books of all time is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Are you familiar with that one?
No, no, I'm not actually. I think I've heard of it, but I've never
Yeah,
read it.
you read it in a couple of hours, but it's so succinct, so on point with this whole thought management thing. It's what started me really on the self-help, the kind of introspective journey, was that book. Uh, and I'll say for all three of them, they reinforce each other in the sense of about being in touch with your intuition.
Mhm.
You know, Liz Gilbert's Big Magic talks about, you know, how important it is to let your curiosity guide you, you know, to tap into that creative part of yourself. And it doesn't have to be with paint or with clay or music or whatever it is, you know. Tap into that creativity part because we're meant to create, you know. Rising Strong is about being vulnerable and letting yourself be real, be authentic. Brene Brown does such great work around shame and guilt. You know, it's incredible. She's a researcher actually, and a writer, an author, her speaker. Her TED Talks are amazing. Her podcast is incredible. But Don Miguel Ruiz's Four Agreements, yeah, they're something else. It's Don't Make Assumptions is the first one. Be impeccable with your word, which also means how you talk to yourself. right? Always do your best, and at whatever it is, whatever you're doing, whatever, speaking with you today, always bring your best self to the table. Be honest, approach all the small tasks of life authentically, honestly. And the fourth one is, oh my gosh, can't think of it right now. You got me on the spot. Google it. We'll have to Google it.
That's the cliffhanger. I'm going away for a few weeks in a couple of days' time, so I will look for that on Amazon and get it.
Yeah, he has this series of little books.
Mm-hmm.
You'll read them in a couple of hours, but it's like the Four Agreements, the Voice of Knowledge, Mastery of Love is another one. Really, really good stuff. He's from the Toltec tradition, in South America.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff. Don Miguel Ruiz.
I will be looking at that as soon as this conversation's done. 3 people to follow or listen to.
Me.
That's cheating. You get your shot at the end.
Yeah, no, but for yourself. Like, answer that for yourself. Me. Yeah. The first person you should follow is yourself. That's what I mean. Be in touch with self. What is your intuition? Where is your intuition guiding you? What is it telling you? So, yeah, first and foremost, be true to self. But to follow, I'm a fan of podcasts, obviously. I listen to Creative Calling a lot with Chase Jarvis. He has some really, really interesting guests all across the spectrum of creativity, talking about their lives. Brene Brown. I'm like a puppy dog follower. I just love her work. I think she's so authentic. She's a Texan, and she speaks like one. She acts like one. She's funny, clever. I guess I can't go without saying Oprah. I was a fan of Oprah for years, absolute years, But there's a lot of younger gurus, if you want to call them that, coming up, that I pay attention to as well. Marie Forleo is one, and Gabby Bernstein, and of course, Deepak Chopra. There's, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer. He just passed away a few years ago, but I'm also a huge fan of his work. I take inspiration from all of those teachers as well,
Yeah, you got to, because that's where one idea from them can spark another idea from you, and that's why I do go through this section, really, is to say, well, how do people start their day? What do people read? Where do they get ideas from? And then this one is kind of 3 habits or disciplines that you have adopted over the years that you think have made a big difference to your life. Probably painting's one of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could umbrella that as creativity, just period. Being creative at something every single day. Because that speaks to me. That speaks to my soul, right? What else?
Coffee in bed.
Well, connection. Honestly, though, connection with self is extremely important. Paying attention to what's going on internally, for me, helps me to be a better person, helps improve my relationships, helps improve my relationship with myself. My husband, my friends, my family, I was going to say coworkers, but I'm an entrepreneur now. So, but you know what I mean? Like it just improves every aspect of your life, when you get in touch with who you really are. And to keep growing, to keep growing, to keep elevating my own awareness and sharing, putting words out there, that might resonate with somebody.
Nice. 3 tools, systems, apps, softwares, whatever it is that you use all the time and couldn't live without now.
Canva.
Yes.
Canva. I cannot believe how great that app is, and it's still free. Like seriously,
Yeah.
amazing app. Because of course I'm a creator, so I love working with pictures and words, and and making up these quote things to put up on Instagram and all that. I just love that. But I've also used it to make programs for my shows, to do my book cover when I was, publishing my book. I do it for presentations. I use it for so many things. So that's top of the list. What other app? Well, I listen to podcasts all the time. So, I use that app quite frequently. And I guess Zoom these days. I don't know where I'd be without Zoom to have these kinds of conversations, and also for my coaching business. I mean, I'm completely operational online, especially with COVID, and all of that. So it's everything is online, So yeah.
If it hadn't been for Zoom, I'd have probably spent the last 6 months talking to myself or the wall, So Zoom's up there for me at the moment as well.
Yeah.
One last question. If you could spend an hour with anybody dead or alive, who would that person be?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's hard to answer.
I get a very, very
John Lennon.
spectrum. John Lennon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting
one. My absolute favorite song in the world is Imagine.
Hits the nail on the head, right?
It could make me cry just talking about it. Like it just, and always has, for decades. I just think that it just saddens me so much what he could have created. What he actually could have, how much more he could have shared with the world. Right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, very sad, very, very sad. I often think that because he died 3 months after a year and 3 months after I was born. So not very long. Well, that's all my questions, and thank you so much for bringing your energy to this conversation.
It's been a pleasure.
I absolutely loved it. So where can people find you?
Well, I guess my main home is michellemyrick.com. Everything is there, my program services, even my mail list, my freebies, because I do workshops from time to time as well, and I also do master classes that I invite people to join, but also in Heart of the Matter on Facebook, But you can find all of that under michellemyrick.com. Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll put it when this goes live and everyone's listening now. You'll find a link on the website, which is probably where they found this to listen to in the first place. Thank you again. Thank you so much. It's been great. Thanks to everyone who's listening. If you want to find out more, go to pocketmastermind.com. Until next time, thanks very much. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. If you enjoyed it and you'd like to hear more similar episodes, head over to pocketmastermind.com, where you'll also find the links mentioned in this conversation. And if you haven't done so already, please leave us a review. It will really help us to get our message out and let more people know about these episodes. So leave us a review, leave us a rating, hit the subscribe button, and please share with your friends. Until next time, thank you again for listening.